The Israelite Nation, Worldwide Ministries.
Welcome to another edition of the Israelite Nation podcast show. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, contact us. We would love to hear from you. We have a special guest, one of our famed, heralded teachers. You've seen him on YouTube. Actually, it's within the last few weeks you've seen him maybe once or twice. Very deep teacher and has a wonderful topic for us to discuss today. We have no other than Elder Freddie Malcolm.
Wow.
Elder Freddie, welcome once again to the podcast show.
Thank you for having me with such an introduction. I don't even know if it's, are you speaking to me or is it?
Well, I know everybody out there in YouTube land, they know what I'm talking about.
Well, Priest Kirk, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's always a joy to discuss our culture, to discuss who we are.
Yes.
We spoke earlier, just before, and it is really and truly a gift to be part of this nation and to just know who you are, to know your culture. And so the life that we live, it's an enjoyable life.
Yes.
It's not a life that it's burdensome. The only time we might get upset is if we don't get to do the work for our God, like keep our services, our Sabbaths,
right,
and to be together,
exercise our culture.
Yes,
our God-given right.
It's upsetting when you have to actually leave here to go and deal with the outside world because just being who we are.
Yes,
you're just naturally being yourself. So it fits and it's such a great feeling. So that's why a lot of times we laugh. A lot of times we're jovial.
Yes. Because
we enjoy our life.
Yeah.
There really and truly isn't much to really compare. Once you've come out of all that darkness and understand who you really and truly are,
you begin to smile.
Yeah.
You begin to live.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Especially when everything that you do as a person can be backed by the scriptures. When you can find your family in here, when you can find your culture in here, when you can relate, when you're not looking at or reading this book as a third party. Like we were taught growing up to view it as, well, you're on the outside looking in.
Right.
But when you can actually just fall into the groove of the wax, as the song says,
right.
You fall right into it. And you come out and say, "How can I move the crowd?" So it's
Cha-ting!
Yeah. It's just so fitting. So when we read these stories, when we read the laws, the statutes, and the commandments, everything you feel at one with it. You're not a stranger to it anymore, and you can actually relate to the stories, the characters, the people, the way that they interacted. You can just actually see your own relatives in here.
Yeah.
You can see interaction that you might have had with somebody that you tried to teach the doctrine to. You can see the interaction that you have with people who think they know the doctrine and think that they're one with the God of Israel, and are not.
Right.
So it's fitting that we're reading this particular scripture today, because it covers the culture, it covers the characteristics, it covers the people, it covers how other people view us.
Mm-hmm.
So
it seems like past times, but it's actually present time. This is like, for all my Star Trekkers, this is the Holodeck. This is the Holodeck. And right now what we're going to do is program Acts 23 into the Holodeck. And watch as characters and personalities and backstories and people in the background and people in the front stand up and appear. Let's do it.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So Acts chapter 23, from the first verse. And Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, "Men and brethren, I have lived all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth.
Smite him in the mouth, meaning what?
Well, it's
This is Old English.
smite. So it's almost very similar to Jeremiah's situation. Way back, the prophet Jeremiah, he's like you're in the court. This is Paul's trial, by the way. So he's in the court, and he's being brought to trial by his own people. Ananias is the high priest. So Ananias commands somebody that's there beside Paul to smite him, which means to strike him, which means to hit him, which means to punch him.
Punch him.
Yeah, and
jab in the mouth.
It's more than a jab. This is like a
Uppercut.
Mike Tyson type thing. So, if you ever seen Tyson like really lay into somebody, he's saying, smite him on the mouth. Then Paul said unto him, God shall smite thee, thou whitened wall. For sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law. So the whitened wall simply is referring to a whitened sepulcher. And a whitened sepulcher is a sepulcher.
Nice on the outside?
Yes, but full of dead men's bones. And if we know about the clean and unclean, the dead is unclean to Israel. So Paul is likening his own high priest, Ananias, like unto a whitened sepulcher.
A fraud.
Yes.
A fraud. So you want somebody to punch me in the face, which is against the law.
Contrary to the law.
But I'm here being tried on the law.
Yes. And what's happening here is like, how are you going to try me? And how are you going to have somebody hit me? We're Israelites. We're not supposed to fight against one another. We're brethren. We're not supposed to hit one another. We're not supposed to be violent towards one another. So that's what Paul is saying here. And it says in verse 4, and they that stood by said, revilest thou God's high priest? So, wait a minute.
Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Who are you talking to?
Yeah, who are you talking to? Like, how are you going to talk to the high priest like that when he commanded somebody to hit you in the face and you're gonna talk back?
Right.
Like, you're supposed to take that. Like, whoa, this is unusual. And verse 5, then Paul said, I was not, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. Verse 6, but when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, men and brethren, I am a Pharisee of the son of a Pharisee, of the hope and resurrection of the dead am I called in question. So, you see, it's an interesting thing, because if you know the culture of a specific people, you are able to actually use that against them. And Paul, being an intelligent person, if not out of all the people in the New Testament, probably the most the most intelligent, in that he was raised as a Pharisee. In this situation, he's on trial, and he knows that
for his life be it.
For his life.
For his life.
And he knows that the audience, it's mixed. You have Pharisees and Sadducees there. So he's able to use his intelligence against them in this situation here, because he says that I am a Pharisee, a son of a Pharisee, and of the hope and resurrection of the dead am I called in question. Because the Pharisees believe that. But yet he's saying, well, I'm a Pharisee. How am I being tried for that? Because the Pharisees believed in the afterlife. They believed in life after death.
Gotcha.
And he knows that the Sadducees are there. So verse 7, it says here that, and when he had said so, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the multitude was divided. So it's like you can go to a conference of, I don't know, Hebrew Israelites or something like that. And then you could say, oh, well, you know what? I believe in wearing fringes, right? And then somebody could say, well, I'm called into question for that. But look, I have fringes.
Right.
So if you know the culture,
you can manipulate
the situation, knowing how people react and how that they won't react, and certain things can cause a dissension, as it says here. And in verse 8, for the Sadducees, this is how you know what the Sadducees believe in. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. And there arose a great cry, and the scribes that were of the Pharisees part arose and strove, saying, we find no evil in this man. But if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against God. So the scribes, so you had Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, and they're taking note of everything that's happening. They're saying, hey, wait a minute. This guy just said he's a Pharisee, raised as a Pharisee, and he's being questioned about the resurrection. Is he brought to trial? And then the scribes are saying, hey, what's going on here? So you can just, the room.
Yes, it erupted, and there's small chatter. Oh. And then there's guys over there almost getting into a fight.
The tension is thick in the room. Some situations, we've been amongst these sort of situations when our people start talking about God. You can talk about economics, they won't get upset. They're not like other people. Right? Some people get upset about politics, but our people, when it comes to the discussion of God, it's heated to the point where they don't even recognize you anymore. You could be talking to your own family and family members. Like I've heard where family members have thrown things. People have had their mom throw things at them.
People get kicked out of their homes
because
people get divorced
because of this. Because of this book, because of the what's perceived to be truth and what's not actually truth. So people are ready to fight and die for certain things that don't even exist. But that's us as a people. Verse.
So when you say, and we may have some first time viewers. When you say that's us as a people, what do you say? What do you mean that's us as a people?
There's a scripture that says that we have the zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. Okay. So there is that zeal, like I've heard people sometimes like just scream out, Jesus, Jesus, like singing songs, like you don't know anything about Jesus, but you're ready to say, well, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And like people get all emotional, wrapped up in emotion, and yet they can't tell you anything about this quote unquote person, Jesus. So if you ask them, okay, well, you're talking about Jesus, but what tribe was he from?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Well, what happened to him on the 8th day?
Who cares?
Yeah, certain things, like what did he do growing up? Nothing. All they know is just this name, and have no factual evidence. No scriptural evidence.
So they have the zeal.
They have the zeal,
but no knowledge.
Not according to knowledge. There is no knowledge of which God that they're actually serving. No knowledge, because you can just say God and people believe that, okay, well, we're all talking about the same person, the same entity, the same spirit, but that's not true. And as a matter of fact, the first commandment of all will tell us that there are many. So you have to know which God it is that you are referring to, because gods there be many. So just because you say God, as a matter of fact, you look on the United States, the American dollar, and it says, in God we trust. Could that be the God of Israel they trust?
It is not.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it.
It is not.
You've got the Eye of Horus, you've got the pyramid, you've got Egypt. And what people don't understand, or what fail to really try and understand, is that our God did not like Egypt. How are you going to say that the Egyptians and the Egyptian gods are the same God that the children of Israel served, when clearly there is a contention. Clearly there is contradiction. There's fighting. The two don't mix. So you can see that when we say God, it's very important for us to identify always which God that we're speaking about. And down to the point where if you start calling other names and saying that that's God, it's not. And then the people would get upset by saying, well, you're referring to your God as God. Well, Sure, that's what it says in English. Like, it's simple. I mean, it's supposed to be simple. But it's getting back to this to the matter at hand. It says here in verse 10, I believe we were at, and when there arose a great dissension, the captains, fearing lest Paul should have been pulled in pieces of them, commanded the soldiers to go down and to take him by force among them and to bring him to the castle. So the people that came to his rescue didn't look like him.
No. It says who was the chief captain, the captain of the guard, which is of Rome.
Right. So what people need to understand is that this particular time in our history, we were under the rulership of Rome. Rome had invaded.
Occupation.
We were being occupied by a foreign nation, which were the Romans. So they allowed us to continue on with our cultures and to continue on with everything that we had to do. They just wanted to make sure that we paid our taxes to Caesar. Right. So carry on as you will. We just want
give us tribute.
Give us the tribute and give us our taxes and do whatever you want to do. Live amongst yourselves. Right. We're not really concerned. But as you can see, the captain here, he doesn't want, this person, he's in your court. They don't want him to be like, you're about to kill him. Yeah. Like there's so much excitement going on and the tension is so thick that there's like they can see like, wait a minute, something's going on wrong here. They're about to kill one of their own.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We need to establish due process. Yes, he may be guilty, he may not. That's up to you guys. I don't know. But you can't kill him. And he's talking about his own people.
Right.
Let's get him before his own people kill him.
Yeah. So the the white people.
Say what it is.
The white people came to Paul's aid and saved his life and took him out of that situation.
Lest he died.
So when people start talking about white people this, white people that, just know that the Romans in this situation they're obviously not Israelites. So they came and saved Paul's life. And it's not a color issue. It wasn't about color. Never within the scriptures has it ever been about a color issue. The issue in the scriptures has always been, which God do you serve?
Right. That's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
And it's, even though this is not part of the story, but it's in the same book, that Cornelius.
Yes.
Same book.
Yep.
Right? And the centurion, which, built synagogues for the people.
And gave alms to the people.
Alms to the people. Yeah. And the angel had to come. And we have to take note that some say that, Cornelius must have been black.
Why? Because he did something good?
Because he did something good.
Yeah.
He must have been.
That's the talk that's out there.
Yeah.
That the only time a Roman could ever do good or be good is when he was a black person.
He must have been black. Yeah. It couldn't have been the Roman. But this captain, this chief, it's not just captain. This is a chief captain.
Yeah.
Right? On his ownness here. This is not instruction.
Right.
This is, we got a court session going on here. Let's get this before they kill him. That's because we need to continue with our due process.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. And it says here in verse 11, and the night following, the Lord stood by him and said, be of good cheer, Paul, for thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem. So must thou bear witness also at Rome. So it's a foreshadowing of what's to come. Because if we go back into the history of Paul, we know what he was meant to do. Because of what he used to do. He used to take his own people to the courts, take it with letters from the authorities like Ananias and those chief priests gave him authority, because the people that were following Jesus the Christ, the established Israelites, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the scribes, those established Israelites were living sumptuously and they fared well. So when somebody like Jesus the Christ came about and he started teaching what he was teaching, and not only teaching what he was teaching, but backed it up with miracles. He came with miracles and he came teaching and giving out freely, taking nothing from anyone, just doing what he was doing. The establishment felt threatened.
Of course.
They were threatened by his presence and what he was doing, because if they are saying, well, I am here on behalf of God and I represent God, but here you have someone from amongst the ranks, and what did they say? Is there anything that good that comes from Galilee? It's like, geez, these guys coming from the ghetto. So you can see the mentality of our people, what exists today. Amongst the children of Jacob, you have those that have elevated or have been elevated. They actually look down on the rest of us because we're to them, we're like bottom feeders. We're because what? We're not wealthy. We don't have a big an established name. We might not even be educated or gone to university or college, but there is an established rank and file amongst the children of Jacob. So that's what you see here within the scriptures, that it's always been that way. There's no humility when it comes to that. So it's something that we always have to be leery of. And that establishment does not want to see it change. They don't want to see, as a matter of fact, there are some children of Jacob who do not want the truth to come out about who we are. They rather have everybody ignorant and just say, thank you, Massa. Yes, Massa. Massa, our house is burning down.
Our house.
Yeah. So things like that. They don't want things to change. So they will actually fight you to make sure that you just stay down there and don't mention anything about this Israel stuff. We're happy being Christians. How are you going to come here and start talking about this Israel stuff and this Israelite stuff? We don't want to hear that.
Well, you know what? Let me say, Holodeck, stop program. Stop program, Holodeck. And we go into today's time where we just had Nick Cannon. We could talk about this.
Yeah.
Nick